Okay, we are back, and as you see, the Occupy Wall Street movement's a diverse group of people. There's no central pillars or anything, but at the same time, the establishment is trying to steer that momentum into more big government solutions. And you've heard Alex calling for an Occupy the Federal Reserve movement. He's in Dallas today to get that going, but many other groups have had the same idea really at the same time because they're also freedom-loving groups. So we're going to talk now with Stewart Rhodes, the founder of Oath Keepers, and a project that Oath Keepers has been working on with many other people as well, and that is Occupy the Federal Reserve Now. And we're here to discuss why they're there, what they stand for, and what message they hope to send to the Occupy Wall Street crowd and the whole world that's watching right now. Stewart, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. Glad to be here.
So tell us about how this movement got started and where Oath Keepers and other freedom-loving patriots plan to show up, and of course, about the message we're trying to send.
Well, as you said, I think we all had the same idea, which is a no-brainer that the real target should be the Federal Reserve. And certainly Wall Street is corrupt and complicit, but it's the Fed that's the heart of the beast and the engine of our destruction. And so just as Alex had that epiphany, and same with myself, and turns out Danny Pinzalo, leader of the Truth Squad, had the same idea. And so we've kind of just come together and founded a new website called OccupyTheFedNow.com, and it's a coalition of volunteers. Bryce Shonka from the 10th Amendment Center is going to help. Stephen Vincent, founder of End the Fed, is going to help. Gary Franchi, Bob Dwyer from the Boston Tea Party movement, Danny Pinzala, and Brandon Smith from meltmarket.com. We're all coming together to, anybody else who wants to join, as long as they're freedom-minded and constitutionalists, they're welcome to help us. And the whole mission is to go out there in the street and counter the propaganda that's like you said. Same thing happened to the Tea Party movement is now happening to this on the left. They have people who are independents or who are just really just wondering what's going on, and they're angry. And the establishment would like to steer them into, well, just keep voting Democrat or just yell at the bankers, but they don't really want them to look at the real enemy, the Federal Reserve. And so the whole goal is get out there, like Alex has already advocated, get out there and redirect their attention to the Fed. And we'll be reaching out to them. In fact, we already have done that. Oath Keepers in LA, in Boston, in Seattle, across the country have already stepped out and talked to a lot of these protesters, and they're not dyed-in-the-wool communists or socialists. A lot of them are just confused college students who, like most Americans, were never taught the Constitution, never taught about free market economics, and just don't know. So, the power elites have always had a monopoly on these people through education. They've monopolized public education, and then when they go to college, they get an extra dose of it because the college is dominated by Marxists. That's the last refuge of Marxism. So no surprise they don't know what the free market's all about. And so rather than just condemning them like a lot of people on the conservative side are doing, that's a mistake. Get out there and give them the information. And as far as Oath Keepers goes, we look at it like this. The same reason why we still talk to the military and police even after the gross violations and gun confiscation during Katrina. And we could have said, hey, look at them. They don't know the Constitution. They don't understand their oath. Forget them. But we didn't say that. We said, hey, we got to go cure that lack of knowledge. And the same is true here. Don't forsake them. Don't cast them aside. That's what the power elites want you to do. They want you to say, oh, there's a bunch of commies. Don't go talk to those people. I'm not trying to change the mind of Van Jones or Michael Moore, but he also shows up who's a dyed-in-the-wool Marxist. You're not going to change their minds.
Well, we've had reporters down in Wall Street and at the other Occupy events that are taking place across the country, and they all say it's not just socialist or anything like that. A lot of people are wanting to end the Fed, and a lot of people are simply angry about the economic conditions in general. But to me, this seems like a great education opportunity for this End the Fed movement that's been going on at least since 2007 when Ron Paul was running for the GOP nomination last term. And this is a continuation of our efforts while everyone's focused on the economic issues as everything comes to a head.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to get, just as disintegration of economies in Tunisia and Greece and elsewhere led to mass protests, you're going to get it. No matter whether you like it or not, there's going to be people in the streets who are going to be angry and upset and scared. So why not get out there if you're a constitutionalist and a real believer in freedom, you have an obligation and duty to get out there and talk to them and show them the correct path.
Stewart, I hear the message you're trying to say here today, that we're just freedom-loving people who want to restore the Constitution. We know that the Tea Party movement from several years ago ultimately became an opportunity for the GOP to stir people back into the establishment two-party paradigm. And we know people like Al Gore, who've called for an Arab Spring in America, would like to drive that same energy to the Democratic Party. And I think it's great that we're out there just to say that, no, this anger about economic issues is an anger against the establishment. Your take, sir.
Yeah, I see it like they're competing crime families. You know, the oath-breaking, unconstitutional status on the political left are the mirror image of their counterparts on the political right, and they're just competing for domination. And both of them are outside of the Constitution, way outside the bounds. And so we need to bring the people to the Constitution and to the principles of sound money and fundamental liberty that our Constitution was structured on.
Yeah, the final point is, as we've seen more accountability, as we've seen more spotlight on the Federal Reserve as an issue unto itself, we've seen Americans become really greatly in favor of not only auditing, but of reining in or abolishing the Federal Reserve. But counter to that, we've seen the Federal Reserve go on the offensive, trying to keep track of, quote, key bloggers on places like Facebook, and really trying to put out their counter message. We don't want to be intimidated. We want to let people know that it's okay to go out there and speak for the First Amendment. And please address that and the fact that you said the police really need to remember to respect these protesters, because everyone, regardless of their point of view, has a right to voice what they think is going wrong in this country.
Well, this is the key battle. If you're afraid to step out now, then you're never going to step out. So, so you got to get out there and not let yourself be intimidated, because if you don't step out now and direct the energy that's out there towards the actual enemy, the Fed, if you don't do that, then you're not going to have a country. And so then what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? Canada? So, be a man, be a woman, step up, do what you have to do. And yes, another factor why we're going to be doing this as well is to defend the rights of the protesters. And we don't agree with a lot of what they're saying. A lot of things are coming out of these assemblies, as a reflection of their education. We don't agree with those viewpoints, but still they have a right to free speech. And I think the pepper spraying on the street up there of the women who were just standing on the street corner was atrocious. They should sue. It's the same thing as like when Rob Dew was arrested, at the G20 just for being a journalist. It was wrong. That's why I'm helping with his lawsuit. You have to fight back against this stuff, and we need to stand up for the rights of free speech and assembly for everybody, no matter what their political view.
Well, Stewart, we're going to leave it there. We really appreciate you joining us. We're going to say goodbye right now, and we really hope that individuals, wherever you are, will go out to Fed locations.